Joined here by Alice, who is the lead academy therapist here at Brighton. Obviously, again, another super competitive industry, lots of people doing sports therapy degrees. What would your sort of 3-step breakdown be for those people who want to break into roles like yourself?
So I think my 3 breakdowns would be, we sort of always talk about experience, but making sure you have sort of the relevant qualifications. So that's not just applicable to your sports therapy degree, but also first aid qualifications. So ITMIF, ATMIF, or sort of, first aid in football. There's kind of specific ones for different sports. But yeah, making sure that you've kind of got as much on your CV in terms of those relevant qualifications as possible. I think availability. So, across sort of the working week or when you're approaching clubs, what can you offer them, really? So, we have a lot of opportunities for like casual staff or full-time roles, but you have to kind of want to work the hours. It's late evenings if you're in the academy, it's weekend work, but in order to work in sport and, with the badge, then that's sort of maybe what you have to be prepared to do. And thirdly, I think, we sort of mentioned experience, kind of get those hours on the side of the pitch. Sport and sporting injuries, you kind of learn about them in your degree and your qualification, but to see it happen, to be there, to experience the player-coach interactions, to watch the sport itself, I think is key. So, I think that would be my advice.
How was that for you from going from studying to, like you say, on a pitch, dealing with players, staff? How was that sort of transition?
It was an interesting one. I think probably the first thing for me is you have to realise you don't know everything. So what you've learned in the classroom or from the lectures can look very different pitch side. So that's where the hours are important. So that's where building up that experience by spending that time on the side of the pitch and watching the sport, I think for me is key, really.
And how did you go about getting that experience earlier on in your career?
So I come from a bit of a rugby background. So approaching clubs I used to play. So going back to the clubs that I used to play for, looking at different levels, so not just the club but county. And then so I think just building that network. So old colleagues, coaching staff, just sort of trying to get your name out there, and it's really sort of being willing to do the jobs that not necessarily some people are willing to do. I think we have aspirations to work in sport, but when it's 8:30 of an evening and you've been rained and you're soaking wet, actually you're willing to then turn up the next day and crack on. So I think that's quickly recognised within the sporting community if you're willing to kind of do those.
For sure, and 100%. I think what you mentioned as well about rugby background, I often say to students, look at other sports, because there will be a lot of transferable skills. Obviously, some injuries will be different, of course, in different sports. But would you say that as well? Look at other sports, and then you can bring those skills over to football.
Yes, definitely. I think if you've got aspirations to work in football, then brilliant. Aim, build your network, build your contacts, build those connections with those clubs. But there are other sports. I've sat on the side of cricket pitches, hockey pitches, netball, rugby. Once you're there with the players, with the coaching staff, you're learning skills and abilities to interact that are transferable. They all worked along through different sport environments. So 100%. I think people looking to get into football might just be too focused on the football aspect, and actually there's teams, there's clubs, there's other sports that still need that pitch side experience, still need that first aid qualified person. So look outside of what your comfort zone is, and then when you've made those connections or had those conversations or built that reputation, then you can start to approach maybe winning time. And I think
100%. I think especially when a lot of the people graduating uni at 21, 22, you've got 40 years left of working. You've got a long career. Your dream job will come. I think a lot of people I speak to are, like you said, very fixated on football. And I was the same, but then it's about maybe rugby, cricket, and then bringing those skills across a bit later on, like you say.
Yeah, and I think then you when I said like I'm now in this environment, you can actually, like I said, those transferable skills. You can become an invaluable member of the team because you haven't just been in football. You're able to bring rehab exercises, pitch side incident management skills across into football that actually sometimes maybe just needs a bit of a different perspective or a different set of skills.
Yeah.
So
I just want to go off tangent. It's just come to me. So first time dealing with a group of players, like how is that for, someone in a sports therapy role, and how do you learn, what was the biggest thing you learned, maybe in the first few weeks from dealing with players?
So I think key for me was kind of getting an understanding of the sport itself. So I was quite lucky. If we talk about kind of building up to working in football, I played rugby, I played hockey, across sort of tried different sports. So I have like a bit of an understanding of what a player might be reporting to you. But also I was lucky to, I wanted and had other lead physios, lead sports therapists, and I was in clinic with them, or I was, before a match, I was watching or being shown how to tape and getting those little nuggets of wisdom that you wouldn't have picked up in clinic or in your lectures. So finding someone to shadow, I think, is definitely key. And then getting an understanding of the sport, definitely. Because even then, when it comes to, if you're an opportunity where you are working in football and you are sat pitch side, those interactions with coaches and with players, where you have an understanding of what they're wanting to achieve or what the players are feeling or their emotions or their physical, mental states, just then allows for much sort of clearer or better management of them in an instant, or even just, advising on the pitch. Yeah,
100%. So with, say, for example, coaching, when it comes to interviews, for a coach, I know they may set the candidate a task, right? So for on a pitch task for player care to deliver like a player care presentation. And with interviews, is that like a similar thing? Could you be set a task, or some of the interviews that you faced, are they sort of question based interviews?
It's a combination of both. So the kind of I've been in interviews or run interviews where typically sort of first 25 minutes you're learning about them as a person. Yeah. So they're able to put across their experience, their skills, etc., how they feel they might fit into this environment. So we've sort of in our Brighton Hove Albion interviews, you get asked about the team values. So it's an understanding of the company itself. And then we also run like a scenario-based questions. So probably an assessment, either of an injury, and then sort of what they would run through their rehab. So how they take maybe to an early to a late stage rehab, just to get an understanding of what their clinical skills are like. And
then any tips for preparing for an interview for someone who maybe has one coming up soon?
Yes, so I mean, definitely understand the company that you're wanting to work for. So I think each club would have a clear viewpoint or values or structure, especially in the academies. So if you can get an understanding of that, because they certainly will ask you questions around the company as a whole. And then it's just building your clinical skills, so your assessments, your injury kind of evaluations. So you would have done this as part of your exams for university, but it's just kind of practicing and honing those skills, and that comes with time. Really, that comes with learning what you need to do, through practice in those, that kind of voluntary work or work outside of that. So,
Alice, thank you so much. That was great. Brilliant. Thank you.
Cool.